The girl from the fire sky. The twin sons of Veltrix 9 never slept. They burned above the desert planet all day, every day. No night, no shade, just endless heat and fire. Joran wiped the sweat from his face as he fixed a broken solar panel on the roof of the human outpost. He was used to heat. He was born here. But today, even he felt dizzy. The sons were angry. Then he saw it. Something was moving in the distance. At first, he thought it was a heat mirage, just waves dancing in the air. But no, it was real. A figure. Someone was walking. No, stumbling, across the burning sand. Joran stood up and squinted. What the hell? The figure collapsed just outside the gates of the outpost. Someone's out there, he shouted, jumping down from the roof. Soldiers rushed to the wall. The gates opened a little. Everyone stared. The thing lying on the sand wasn't human. Her skin was pale, but now turning red. She had long silver hair that glowed like light. Her clothes looked like soft crystal, and her arms were covered in black lines that moved like smoke. Is it a trap? One soldier asked. She's not one of ours, said another. Don't touch it, the commander barked. It could be dangerous. But she wasn't moving. She was dying. Her hands twitched, trying to dig into the sand for shade. Her mouth opened, whispering something no one understood. Joran stepped forward. Wait, someone called. You'll get infected. But Joran didn't stop. His boots crunched in the sand as he knelt beside her. He could see her chest moving fast. She was breathing, but barely. He reached out and touched her shoulder. The moment his hand touched her, everything changed. The burning red on her skin began to fade. The black lines slowed. Her breathing eased. The air around them shimmered like cool water. What? What just happened? Someone whispered. Joran didn't know, but he could feel it. His hand was warm, but not from the sun. It was like energy was flowing from him to her. He didn't pull away. The alien girl slowly opened her eyes. They were deep violet, glowing from the inside. She looked at Joran like she had found something impossible. You, she whispered. You can stop it. Joran blinked. Stop what? The fire, she said, her voice dry. You cool the fire. Then she fainted. Back inside the outpost, panic spread. She needs medical help, Joran yelled. The commander shouted orders, and the girl was rushed into the med bay. Scientists and medics surrounded her. Machines beeped. Lights scanned. But something was wrong. She's not stable unless he's near her, one medic said. What do you mean? Look, the doctor pointed at a monitor. Her temperature rises the second he moves away. But when he holds her hand, it drops again. Joran didn't understand, but he stayed by her side. She looked so fragile now. Her skin was smooth like glass, but marked by tiny burns. Her silver hair had turned dull. But every time he touched her, she seemed to heal a little more. She's from a species we've never seen before, a scientist muttered. Not in any known database. She just walked through the desert in full sun. That should have killed anything, said another. Not if she was desperate, Joran said softly. A few hours later, she woke up again. This time, she sat up slowly. Her eyes searched the room, then locked on Joran. You saved me, she said. I think so, he replied. My name is Lizeri, she said. I come from below, deep tunnels. My kind hides from the sun. But now, the heat reaches even there. Our homes are burning. Joran frowned. Why did you come here? We heard that humans walk in the fire without dying. We hoped someone could help us. The room went silent. Lizeri's eyes filled with fear. I didn't know the fire would rise so fast. I barely made it. But you, she reached out and touched his hand. You're different. Your touch, it stops the pain. Joran felt strange, like a spark passed between them. Not love, not yet, but something deep and ancient, something he couldn't explain. "What do you need?" he asked. She looked down. "I don't know. I just know. If you leave, I will burn again." Suddenly, alarms rang. Guards stormed in. The commander looked angry. "We're moving her to quarantine. We don't know what she is." "She's not dangerous," Joran protested. "She's an unknown alien. We follow protocol." Lizeri grabbed his hand tightly. "Don't let them take me. Please. I'll die." Joran looked at her. Then he looked at the guards. He had a choice to make. And deep in his heart, he already knew the answer. Her name is Lizeri. The guards pulled Joran away from Lizeri's bedside, their metal gloves cold and hard on his arms. The alien girl screamed as they broke her grip from his hand. Almost instantly, her skin began to turn red again, and her breathing grew shallow. "Stop! Can't you see what's happening?" Joran shouted, struggling. But no one listened. Lizeri collapsed onto the bed, gasping for air. The sensors beeped louder, warning of heat trauma. Her body trembled like something inside her was cracking apart. The commander stood by the door with a cold look. "She is not our responsibility. She's not even from a known species. She'll die if I don't stay near her," Joran argued. "Then she dies," the commander replied. The room went quiet. For a moment, it felt like time had frozen. Then, "No," Joran shouted. He twisted, broke free from one guard, and dived back toward the bed. His fingers touched Lizeri's again. The effect was instant. The beeping slowed. Her shaking stopped. The burns faded again, just like before. She looked up at him with weak eyes. "You came back," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I didn't leave by choice," Joran said, holding her hand tight. The commander watched with a hard face, then finally turned. "Put them both in the medical isolation chamber. Monitor everything. I want full reports every hour." They were moved into a special glass chamber, cold, and sealed with machines scanning every movement. Joran sat beside Lizeri, who now looked slightly better, though still weak. For the next several hours, she told him her story. "I come from the deep tunnels of Veltrix 9. My kind is called Cyrilith. We live far below, where the sun can't reach us. For generations, we feared the surface." "Why?" Joran asked. Lizeri looked at the ceiling with a tired smile. "Because it burns us. Long ago, something happened. Something ancient. A curse, perhaps. Our bodies changed. We began to melt under the touch of sunlight. It became poison to us." Joran leaned closer, interested. "But why now? Why come out after so long?" "Our tunnels are cracking," she said. "The twin suns are growing hotter each season. Even below, the heat creeps in. We are dying. I was chosen to come to the surface and find help." "Chosen?" Joran repeated. "Why you?" Lizeri hesitated. "Because I am different. Even among my kind, I feel things others don't. When I touch stone, I hear echoes. When I close my eyes, I see lights under my skin." Joran stared at her glowing arms, then at his own hand still holding hers. "And when you touched me?" She looked straight into his eyes. "Peace." The burning stopped. "You are not like the others." As night never came on Veltrix 9, the suns continued to burn the sand outside. But inside the chamber, a strange calm settled between them. Joran told her about life in the human colony, about his job fixing machines, about growing up on a planet with no darkness, always sweating, always running from the heat. "No wonder you survived the fire," she said softly. "But I never knew my body could heal someone like you." "Maybe it's not just your body," she whispered. "Maybe it's your soul." He blushed slightly and looked away. "So, how do we help your people?" Lizeri's face turned serious. "I don't know, but if I can stay alive long enough, maybe I can find a way." Before they could speak more, a team of scientists entered the outer area of the glass chamber. Through the speaker, A woman's voice came. "We need to conduct tests," she said. "We believe Joran's body is releasing a type of energy unseen before. His cells carry something ancient." Joran stood up. "What kind of tests?" "Safe ones, for now. We just want to scan you both." Joran looked at Lizari, who nodded slowly. "If it can help, I'm ready." The tests began. Joran sat in one chair, Lizari in another, while blue light scanned their bodies. Strange symbols flashed on the monitors. One scientist looked amazed. "This can't be right. Their energy patterns are sensing." "What do you mean?" the commander asked. "It's like his body is creating waves. Her body absorbs them. Like music written for only one listener." As more tests were done, a shocking discovery emerged. Joran's blood held a dormant gene, something almost extinct in humans, something that resonated with Cyrillic biology. "This gene hasn't been active for thousands of years," the scientist said. "Somehow, Joran's body reawakened it, and Lizari, her body responds to it." The room fell silent. Then the commander spoke. "Can we extract it from him? Copy it?" The scientist paused. "Maybe, but removing it might kill him." Joran looked at Lizari, whose eyes had widened with fear. "Then no," Joran said firmly. "There has to be another way." The commander clenched his jaw. "You're putting one alien girl above all of us." Joran didn't blink. "She's not just an alien girl. She's alive. And maybe she's the key to something bigger than you can understand." Late that night, inside the isolation chamber, Joran sat awake while Lizari rested. She stirred and whispered, "Why are you still awake?" "I'm thinking," he said. "About what?" "About why me? Why my touch? Why now? I feel like this isn't random." She reached out and touched his face gently. "Nothing this strange ever is." They sat in silence. But outside, the commander was already planning. He wasn't going to let one human and one alien stand in the way. Tomorrow, he'd make his move. Experiments or escape. The next morning, the suns burned even brighter over Veltrix 9. The heat outside could melt metal if left unprotected. Inside the human outpost, everything looked calm. But behind locked doors, dark decisions were being made. Commander Brandt stood inside the lab with his arms crossed. His eyes were fixed on the live monitor showing Joran and Lizari sleeping inside the glass isolation room. "She's too dangerous to keep alive," he said coldly. "But she's stable now," the scientist replied. "As long as Joran is near her, she's healing." "We're not a rescue center. We're a science base," Brandt snapped. "We need to understand what's happening inside that alien's body and how we can use it." "Commander, the data is clear," the lead scientist said. "Joran's DNA is producing a type of biofrequency we've never seen before. It reacts directly with Lizari's cells. It's like they're designed to complete each other." Brandt narrowed his eyes. "Then extract it. Remove the gene from him. Inject it into someone else. Test it." The room went silent. "But removing it from him might kill him." The commander turned slowly. "He's just a mechanic. One man. If his sacrifice saves millions, it's worth it." Inside the isolation chamber, Joran was waking up. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. Beside him, Lizari was curled up in a blanket, her silver hair glowing softly. She looked peaceful now. The burning lines on her arms had faded almost completely. Joran smiled, then stood up and stretched. But the moment his hand left hers, Lizari stirred and winced. Her fingers reached out blindly, searching for him in her sleep. Joran gently touched her hand again, and she relaxed instantly. He sat beside her, thinking, "Why me? Why does my touch do this?" Suddenly, a voice buzzed through the speaker. "Joran, we need you to come out. Alone. For some simple tests." He frowned. "What kind of tests?" "Nothing dangerous. Just blood samples, scans. Please cooperate." Liz Airy opened her eyes. She had heard everything. "Don't go," she said softly. "It's okay," Joran whispered. "I'll be back soon." She held his hand tightly. "I don't trust them." He gave a small smile. "Neither do I. But maybe this will help us figure out what's happening." He stood up and walked to the door. It opened with a hiss, and guards escorted him away. Liz Airy was left alone, her hands shaking. Joran was taken to a cold white lab. They strapped him to a chair. He didn't like that. "Is this necessary?" he asked. A woman in a white coat walked in, holding a needle and scanner. "We're just going to draw some blood," she said calmly. "Stay still." But behind a glass wall, Commander Brandt gave a quiet order. "Begin gene separation process." Machines around Joran started to hum louder. He felt strange, like something was pulling at his bones. His vision blurred. "What are you doing?" he asked, panicking. "We're isolating the energy in your cells," the scientist said. "Don't worry. It'll only hurt a little." But the pain was sharp, deep, like fire in his veins. Back in the isolation chamber, Liz Airy suddenly screamed. She grabbed her chest and fell to the floor. The black lines returned. Her skin blistered again. The temperature in the room spiked. Alarms rang. Guards rushed in, but stayed back, too afraid to come close. "She's destabilizing," a medic yelled. "I told you," one whispered. "She needs the human." The commander ignored them all. "Continue the extraction," he ordered. Joran could hear the alarms through the wall. His heart raced. "Something's wrong," he yelled. "She's dying." He struggled against the straps. One snapped, then another. "Stop him," someone shouted. But Joran broke free, swinging the heavy metal chair into the console. Sparks flew. Machines shorted out. Lights flickered. He ran out of the room, pushing guards aside. A siren echoed through the hall. "Liz Airy, hold on." Inside the chamber, Liz Airy collapsed completely. Her skin began to turn black. Guards moved back in fear. Suddenly, the door burst open, and Joran ran in. He dove to her side and took her hand. A blast of energy shot through the room, blinding white light. The temperature dropped in seconds. Liz Airy gasped and took a long, deep breath. She opened her eyes. "You came back. Again." Joran held her close. "I'll never leave you again." The guards stood frozen, afraid to come near. Machines sparked behind them. The glass walls of the chamber were cracked. The commander watched through the cameras, furious. Later that night, hidden deep in the old maintenance tunnels, Joran and Liz Airy sat by a quiet generator. They had escaped using a secret vent. No one knew where they were, yet. Liz Airy leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "I saw something when you touched me," she said softly. "Saw what?" "Memories. Not mine. Yours. And others. Long ago, your kind walked beside mine. There was peace, friendship, even love." Joran was silent. "Maybe we were never meant to be apart," she said. "Maybe you are the key to saving us all." Joran looked at her. "We need to find out what really happened in the past," he said. "Why our species were connected. Why they were split apart." She nodded. "And we need to stop the commander," he added, "before he uses this power the wrong way." They sat together in the warm glow of the old generator. Outside, the sun still burned the world, but inside this quiet space, a new fire had started. Not the kind that destroyed, but the kind that gave hope. The forbidden bond. The maintenance tunnels stretched for miles beneath the human outpost. They were old, filled with dust, broken lights, and quiet hums from forgotten machines. No one came here anymore. That made it the perfect place to hide. Joran led Liz Airy through the narrow path, holding her hand tightly. She was still weak, but healing fast. The moment they had touched again, her body had calmed, like fire turning to soft embers. "How far do these tunnels go?" she asked in a soft voice. "Past the old ruins," Joran said. "Places even the commanders don't visit." "Ruins?" Her eyes lit up faintly. "Do you mean ancient structures?" "Yeah, abandoned by the first settlers. Maybe even older than them." Lizeri stopped walking. Her eyes were wide now. "I've seen those ruins in dreams. They call to me." Joran looked at her. "Then maybe that's where we're meant to go." Back at the outpost, Commander Brandt was furious. "She escaped," he shouted. The guards stood frozen, afraid to answer. "We had one chance to extract that energy from the human, and now they're both gone." The scientists looked at each other. "Sir, what if we've made a mistake?" Brandt turned sharply. "What do you mean?" "She isn't a weapon. She's a warning." The commander slammed his fist down. "I don't care what she is. She carries something humans don't understand. That makes her dangerous." One scientist dared to speak. "And Joran?" "Even more dangerous," Brandt growled. "Because he cares." Deep underground, Joran and Lizeri reached the edge of the ruins. Massive stone walls rose from the sand, carved with strange symbols. Faded lights blinked from ancient pillars. It was quiet, too quiet. Lizeri stepped forward slowly. "I know this place," she whispered, "but not from this life. From something before." She touched a wall, and it glowed faintly beneath her fingers. Joran walked beside her. "Do you think your people built this?" "No," she said. "I think our people did." They entered a large chamber, and something clicked. The lights turned on slowly. A strange hum filled the air. In the center was a round stone table. On it sat two glowing objects, one silver, one red. Lizeri stepped closer. "These are memory stones." "Memory stones?" Joran asked. "Yes. They hold the past, and they choose who sees it." She touched the silver one. The room flooded with light, and suddenly, they weren't alone. They stood inside a vision. It was Veltrix mine thousands of years ago, green, full of water and trees. The twin suns were smaller, softer. Strange cities floated in the air. Humans and Cyrilliths walked side by side. They worked together, laughed together, loved together. But then came war. A human leader betrayed the Cyrillith, fearing their growing powers. He used machines to push them underground. A weapon was unleashed, something that cursed the Cyrillith's bodies, making sunlight deadly to them. They were burned out of the world. Lizeri whispered in pain. Joran watched a human soldier in the vision, who looked exactly like him, kneel before a dying Cyrillith woman. He was crying. "Forgive us. I didn't know what they would do." The woman touched his face. "Only your blood can lift the curse now." And then the vision ended. Back in the ruins, Lizeri gasped for breath. Joran stood in shock. "That was me, or someone like me." "No," Lizeri said. "That was your ancestor, the one who loved one of my kind, the last bond." Joran looked at the red stone. "And this one?" Lizeri shook her head. "It's not ready. The red one is the future. It only activates when the bond is whole." "What bond?" Joran asked. She looked up at him. "The bond of trust, of sacrifice, of love." Joran felt something stir inside him. Something real, something ancient. Before he could speak, a loud sound echoed in the chamber. Boom! The wall exploded. Smoke and fire filled the air. Commander Brandt stepped through with soldiers in black armor. "End of the road, mechanic," he said coldly. "You've gone too far." Joran stepped in front of Lizeri. "You don't understand what she is, what we are." Brandt raised his weapon. "I don't care." The soldiers fired stun blasts. Joran grabbed Lizeri and jumped behind a pillar. "We have to run," he shouted. "No," she said, eyes glowing. "We have to activate the red stone." "But we're not ready." She took his hand. Yes, we are. Trust me. She pulled him back to the center. The red stone glowed softly as their hands joined. Bullets flew. Lights shook. But the moment they both touched the stone, everything stopped. Time froze. A wave of white and red energy exploded outward. The soldiers were thrown back. Brant fell to the floor unconscious. Joran and Lisseri stood in the middle of a red storm. Symbols flew around them. Memories, visions, futures, and then peace. The red stone stopped glowing, but something had changed. Later, they stood at the ruins' entrance, watching the sky. The suns were still there, but the light felt softer. Lisseri looked at her hand. It doesn't burn anymore. Joran smiled. Maybe the bond is complete. We awakened something forgotten, she said. He nodded. Something forbidden. But now, something worth protecting. They turned to look at each other. No more running. No more hiding. Together, they had changed everything. The truth beneath the sand. The red stone had gone dark, but something inside it had awakened. Lisseri and Joran stood in the silent ruins, surrounded by collapsed walls and fallen soldiers. Dust hung in the air like fog. Somewhere behind them, Commander Brant still lay unconscious, buried under debris. No one moved. No one spoke. Only the soft humming of the memory stones remained. Lisseri touched her face. The heat was gone. For the first time since she came to the surface, she felt safe. It worked, she whispered. Joran slowly released her hand. What happened in there? Lisseri looked at him. We completed the bond. The stone recognized us, not just as two beings, but as something whole. He shook his head slowly. But why me? Why does my touch stop the burning? Why now? She turned toward the far wall of the ruin. There's more. I can feel it. The truth is buried deeper, beneath the sand. They moved toward a section of the chamber that had collapsed. Stone bricks were scattered across the floor, but a faint red glow peeked from beneath the rubble. Joran knelt and began pulling the stones away, one by one. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew through the ruins, though there were no open windows. Then, a stairway was revealed. The air that rose from it was cool, older than time. Lisseri stepped forward. This place was never just ruins. It was a vault. A vault? Joran repeated. She nodded. For memories. For secrets, maybe even for answers. They descended the stairs. The path below was carved in dark stone, with glowing red vines crawling along the walls. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. At the end of the tunnel, they reached a wide circular room. In the center stood a giant crystal-like orb, floating above a stone table. Carved symbols danced across its surface. Joran stepped closer. What is this? Lisseri stared at the orb. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The core of memory. She placed her palm on it. Light exploded. The orb showed visions, moving pictures in the air around them. This time, the images were not just of the past, but of everything. They saw the first contact between humans and the Cerilith. Thousands of years ago, the two species met in peace. They exchanged knowledge, shared lands, and even formed sacred bonds. Emotional, physical, spiritual. A time of harmony. Then they saw a shadow, a human general named Sarek. Hungry for power, he feared the Cerilith's abilities to absorb and share energy through touch. He claimed it was mind control, witchcraft. He led a rebellion. He burned their cities. He cursed them through a bioweapon, a light virus that turned the sun's rays into poison for the Cerilith. The betrayal was final. The Cerilith went underground, and humans erased their history. But one human, a soldier with a healing bond, tried to stop it. He failed. Until now. The images faded. Joran stepped back, his fists clenched. They lied to us. They buried this truth. Lisseri nodded slowly. Your world forgot us, but ours never forgot yours. Joran looked around. Then what is this place? A temple, she said, built by both of our kinds. It was meant to protect the last secret. She stepped to the table below the orb. There, resting in a glass shell, was a small metallic ring with symbols carved into it. She picked it up carefully. This is the bond seal. Joran tilted his head. What does it do? If worn by a human and a Cyrillith together, she said slowly, it creates a permanent energy link, one that spreads, one that heals. Joran's eyes widened. Wait, are you saying this could heal all of your people? She nodded. And maybe more. He stared at the ring. What's the catch? Lisseri hesitated. The bond is complete only if both people give themselves fully. No lies. No fear. Just truth. He looked into her glowing eyes. I'm ready, he said. As they each slipped on the ring, one piece for her hand, one for his, a sudden pulse shot through the floor. The walls lit up. The orb in the center cracked open. Inside it was a map. Not just a map of Veltrix 9, but a map of hidden cities, underground worlds, secret Cyrillith colonies still alive, still burning, still waiting. This is it, Lisseri said, tears forming. We can find them. We can save them. But just then, a sound echoed from above. Footsteps. Commander Brandt. He had survived. Joran and Lisseri turned to the stairway. Brandt stumbled down, covered in dust, holding a pulse rifle. I warned you, he growled. You've turned your back on your own kind. No, Joran said firmly. I found out who we really are. Brandt raised the rifle. But the moment he fired, Lisseri raised her hand, and a wave of red light blocked the blast. Brandt flew back, unconscious again. Joran looked at her in shock. She smiled. The bond protects us now. They climbed out of the vault carrying the map, the ring, and the memory of the past. The twin suns still burned above them, but now they didn't feel so deadly. Because now they had something stronger than fear. Truth. And each other. Burn or bond. The suns of Veltrix 9 never stopped burning. But now their fire felt different. Joran and Lisseri stood outside the ancient ruins, staring into the endless desert. The red map crystal pulsed faintly in Lisseri's hand, glowing brighter when pointed in certain directions, toward the last surviving Cyrillith colonies hidden beneath the sand. This map shows everything, she whispered, even places we thought were lost forever. Joran nodded. Then let's go. Let's find them. But before they could take a step, Joran's communicator crackled. Joran, come in. This is Doc Lena. Are you there? Please respond. He tapped the device. Doc Lena, I'm here. Her voice was shaky. You have to come back. The outpost, it's under attack. The power cores are failing. The heat shields are dropping. People are trapped inside. We don't have much time. Lisseri looked at him. It's a trap. Joran frowned. No, Doc Lena helped us before. She's not like Brandt. But if we go back now, we'll lose time. My people are waiting too. Joran stood frozen, torn between two roads. He could save the outpost, or save the Cyrillith, and he might not be able to do both. They argued under the rising heat. Lisseri paced in the sand, her glowing feet barely leaving footprints. We found the truth. We have the bond seal. If we reach my people now, we can begin healing them. No more hiding. No more death. Joran stared at the red crystal. But the humans are dying too. You can't save everyone, she said gently. He looked at her. I know. But I can't be the man who lets people burn just because they're not my kind. Lisseri went quiet. Then she said something unexpected. Then we go, together. They raced back across the desert in an old hover transport Joran had repaired months ago. Its engine coughed and sputtered, but it roared to life as the suns reached their highest point. The journey was brutal. Winds howled. Sandstorms tore across the road. And with each mile, the temperature climbed. Joran could feel it in his chest, the fire of the planet pressing down. But Lyseri's hand stayed in his. Every time their fingers touched, the heat became bearable again. Finally, they reached the gates of the human outpost. Smoke rose into the sky. The shield domes were cracked. Parts of the wall had collapsed. Fires raged near the power cores. Inside, people screamed. Joran jumped from the vehicle and ran toward the entrance. Lyseri followed closely. A guard saw them and pointed a weapon, then stopped in shock. "You came back." Joran didn't wait. "Where's Doc Lena?" "In the lower control room," the guard said, coughing. "She stayed behind to buy time for the others to escape." Joran rushed down the burning halls. Flames danced on the walls, and metal beams fell from above. He found Doc Lena barely conscious, trapped beneath a collapsed pipe. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. He lifted the beam with all his strength. His muscles burned. His skin cracked from the heat. But Lyseri stepped forward, placed her hand on his back, and the pain vanished like steam. Together, they pulled her free. Once outside, the crowd of survivors stared at Lyseri with fear. Some backed away. Others whispered, "That's her. The alien. Isn't she dangerous?" But then Doc Lena raised her hand. "No," she said, her voice hoarse but clear. "She saved me." They both did. A silence fell. Joran stepped forward. "This planet is dying. But we found something buried beneath the sand. A way to fix what we broke a long time ago." He held up the red crystal. Lyseri added, "We can still share this world. We just have to share the truth first." Someone in the crowd asked, "And if we don't?" Lyseri looked at the twin suns. "Then the fire will take all of us." Later that night, under a rare calm sky, Joran and Lyseri sat alone on a rooftop. The outpost was badly damaged, but quiet now. The stars finally peeked out from the burning sky, small distant lights that promised something more. Joran leaned back. "I made a choice today." "You chose both worlds," she said softly. He nodded, "But I don't know if it'll be enough." She turned to face him. "You're not just a bridge between species, Joran. You're the first spark of something new." He chuckled. "I don't feel like a spark. I feel like a guy just trying to hold everything together with duct tape." She smiled gently. "Even sparks can light stars." Then she reached into her pouch and pulled out the second half of the bond seal. "It's time," she said. Joran blinked. Time for what? To finish the bond. In full. She offered her half of the ring. "This bond is for life. You'll carry my energy. I'll carry yours. There's no turning back after this." Joran looked at her, silent. Then he took the ring. They slid the pieces into place. A soft hum filled the air. The seal glowed between their hands, golden this time, not red. The third color, a new beginning. Suddenly, Lyseri's body lifted into the air. Joran's eyes glowed. Energy passed between them like lightning. And then, everything went still. The bond was sealed. They were no longer just human and alien. They were something new, something the galaxy hadn't seen in thousands of years. She can touch the sun. The desert wind was quiet, not silent, but calm. Like the planet itself was holding its breath. Lyseri stood at the edge of the crater cliff with her arms outstretched. The two suns of Veltrix 9 blazed high above her, just as they always had. But for the first time in her life, their light did not hurt. Her silver hair flowed behind her. Her pale skin shimmered, not with burns, but with strength. Joran stood behind her, watching, breathless. "She's not burning," Doc Lena whispered from beside him. "No," Joran said softly. "She's glowing." 2 days had passed since the bond seal had activated between them. Since then, Everything had changed. Word had spread quickly, both among humans and hidden Cyrilith survivors. Messages were sent. Warnings turned into hope. Small groups began arriving at the outpost, some from old tunnels, others from hidden shelters under the sand. The humans stared in disbelief. The Cyrilith watched in awe. They all came for one reason: to witness the one who could stand beneath the sun without burning, and to meet the human who gave her that strength. But not everyone believed. A small group of human officers, still loyal to Commander Brandt, tried to stop the movement. They called it a trick, a risk, a lie. Brandt himself, though injured, had vanished into the deeper zones. No one knew where he had gone, but his hatred lingered. "We must unite them before fear returns," Lisseri said, standing before a gathering of both species. "If the bond stays only between two people, it dies with us. But if we share it, it lives forever." Joran nodded. "It starts with trust. It continues with choice." They held up the bond seal for all to see. And then came the question that would change everything. Who is willing to bond next? There was silence. Then one hand rose. A human woman, older, strong, a survivor from the outpost's early days. Then a Cyrilith youth, timid, trembling, but brave. They stepped forward. And so, with Lisseri guiding them, the first shared bond outside the original pair was formed. A surge of energy burst between them, not violent, warm. It spread outward in gentle waves. The air changed. The sun still burned above, but their heat no longer bit so deep. The bond was real, and it was spreading. That night, fires were lit across the outpost, but not for battle. For celebration, humans and Cyrilith sat side by side. They shared food, stories, songs, some new, some ancient. Children played together in the sand. Soldiers took off their armor. Elders cried. Lisseri and Joran stood at the highest ridge, watching the scene below. "You know," Joran said, arms crossed, "a few days ago, I was just fixing broken wires and drinking bad coffee. And now you are the reason the sky doesn't burn," Lisseri said gently. He looked at her. "I'm not special. You are to me." He turned away for a moment, overwhelmed. Then he looked back at her with a quiet smile. "So what now? We fixed the outpost, built a bridge between two species, and made history. Are we done?" Lisseri shook her head. "No, we've only just begun." Suddenly, the sky flickered. A dark ship appeared above the horizon, sleek, black, humming with energy. It wasn't human, and it wasn't Cyrilith. Everyone stood, confused. Alarms blared softly. Joran squinted. "That's not from Veltrix 9. The ship hovered, then landed far in the sands. A hatch opened. A single figure stepped out. It was tall, covered in silver armor, its face hidden behind a smooth mask. It held out a hand, and in its palm was a glowing stone, the same shape as the bond seal. Lisseri gasped. "I've seen that design before. In the ruins, in the dreams." The figure spoke, its voice carried through a translator. "You are not the first to bond. You are the first to succeed. We have watched. Now we come to learn." Lisseri and Joran exchanged a look. Their story was not just about one girl who burned under the sun, or one man whose touch healed her. It was about something far bigger. A forgotten history, a broken truth, and a spark that refused to die. The next morning, Lisseri stood alone on a dune. She raised her hand toward the sky. The sun shone brightly, but they no longer threatened her. Behind her, her people waited. Joran walked up slowly. "You okay?" She nodded. "For 1,000 years, we hid in tunnels, afraid of light, afraid of being seen. But now," she looked up, "now I can touch the sun." Joran took her hand. "And you'll never have to face it alone." They stood together, under fire and sky, No longer enemies, no longer strangers, but the beginning of something new.